with all communication and marketing efforts, engaging with Wikipedia requires some risk assessment before you dive in. Not every brand's Wikipedia page is in a really good position to be able to start making meaningful updates right away. Sometimes when you want to begin on Wikipedia, you need to look at what's going to draw Wikipedia editors' eye as well as your own. When you start looking for updates, you're naturally bringing those editors' attention to the page, and they're going to be looking at the page as a whole. They're not only going to want to look at the updates that you'd ideally like to see. Sometimes there's some remedial work that needs to be done in order to bring a page up to the desired standards of Wikipedia, or at least to deal with glaring issues that appear to be on the page. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you a little bit about some of the major issues that you might run into and how to spot these in advance, and then you can be prepared when you start engaging on the site and making requests for updates.
So how can we tell whether a Wikipedia article is in good shape from Wikipedia's perspective? One place to start might be Wikipedia's own grading scheme. The site's editors go through and look at as many articles as they can and assign a class rating to them. But unfortunately, the vast majority of Wikipedia articles never really reach these top classes. It takes quite a lot of involvement and updates from Wikipedia editors and multiple rounds of peer reviewing in order to reach everything from good article upwards here to featured article. Most pages you'll find will fall into these lower levels here, sort of B, C, start. And there can be such a wide range within each of these. So it doesn't always tell you everything you need to know. If you did want to look at that first, just to kind of get a general sense of where your brand fits, you're going to want to look at the article's talk page. And right up at the top, you'll see in the box on the top of the talk page, a little note that looks like this one on the Cinnabon page. So we can see the Cinnabon page is rated as C class. So it's not a stub. It has been developed, but it does have some issues. It does need to be worked on to bring it up to higher quality. So that's where you can look to kind of get, like I say, a general sense. Has this page already been reviewed a whole bunch by Wikipedia editors or not? So if it's in kind of the levels of GA or FA, when you go and look at it, that means that page has had a lot of Wikipedia editor scrutiny already. If it is more in the levels of like B, C, start, stub, those are pages that generally still have a lot of improvement possible for them. So what about some really straightforward indicators we can look for to see whether a page might have some issues from a Wikipedia perspective? One of the first things that you might be aware of is whether an article has a warning banner up at the top of it, like these ones. These ones in particular, I think, are fairly common for brands to see, and that is one warning about content that's written like an advertisement. Promotional content is always going to be a really sore spot for Wikipedia editors. So if you're wanting to get involved and seek updates on a page and it has one of these flags that say the page is promotional, it's really a great idea to try and address this up front with editors and see if you can look through the page and identify what might be causing this and try and resolve it with editors before you start trying to add other things to the page. And then, of course, relying excessively on references to primary sources. Again, quite common for brands. I'll go into detail about that in a second here. But this basically means that you're going to need to look for secondary sources for some of the existing content on the page, as well as going out and finding those types of good quality sources for anything new that you want to add as well. So kind of along the same lines, another thing that's really easy for you to check is the actual quality of the sources themselves. So here, for instance, you can look at the references list on the Microsoft SQL Server page, and so many of these are from Microsoft themselves. So these are primary sources, and that's going to be an issue with Wikipedia editors when they start trying to update this page. They're going to want to see, if you're trying to add something into the history of this page, you want to add something that's about the services, you're going to need to have a better source for it. And they may also want to replace some of these existing primary sources. more common is for your references section to look a little bit like this one. The Moe's Southwest Grill article doesn't have too many sources, and there's kind of a mixture going on here. So we do have some primary sources, again, which are not ideal and editors would want to see being removed. We also have some things like a Google Maps link, which is not great. But as well as that, we have some kind of more fluffy, not ideal secondary sources. So anything that might be more promotional sounding in this page might be because of an article like this one, which is just like one of those mental floss articles. And Wikipedia editors don't really consider that to be a very strong, reliable source. So taking a look at things like that will give you a sense of, are you going to have to do a lot of work in fixing up this existing content and replacing these sources first before you start making your requests for new details. And then finally, one other thing that I think is really helpful to take a look at, and which you're probably already doing if you're thinking about updating the page, is, are there any outdated details on the page? So for example, on the Jamba Juice Wikipedia article, we've got a sentence here right in the introduction about the number of locations and states. And if you go and look in the info box, you can see that that's already, we've got two different numbers for the locations, and the one in the info box, which is higher, is still from 2019. So surely that must be out of date by now. So looking out at things like that, Wikipedia editors are definitely going to be thinking about those as being things that you need to update. It's also a good sign to you of how involved editors have been on this page so far. Are there active editors involved in this page on a regular basis? Probably not if you've got basic details like that have not been updated in some time. So these are just a few really simple things that you can go and look at yourself if you're trying to get a sense of how high quality your Wikipedia article is and whether it's in a good shape for you to jump in and start making some updates. If you are seeing those types of issues, it doesn't mean you can't get involved. It just means that you'll need to plan on helping to address some of those issues first when you start engaging with Wikipedia editors.